nearly 40% of marriages end in divorce, which every time I read that statistic, it's pretty shocking to me because it makes me wonder, are nearly half of us just completely incapable of fixing the problems in our relationships? And that just doesn't seem likely because most of us for our jobs are fixing problems all day long, all day, every single day. So to me, it seems like something else might be going on here. And what I see again and again and again, and I see this with friends, I see this with family, I see this with coaching clients, and I definitely read this a lot, on social media and in various support groups, is that people are upset with what the other person in the relationship is doing. And in a way, they're pointing a finger at the other person's behaviors, what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're not saying, what they're not doing, and saying, look, this is a big problem. This needs to change. And this is a really challenging way to go about trying to improve things in your life. Because when you point your finger at what someone else is doing, whether you're right, whether you're wrong, it triggers defensiveness. And so for that other person, because it's important for all of us to feel a sense of freedom and autonomy in our own lives, if someone's pointing a finger at something, even if they're right, oftentimes we get defensive and we shut it down. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to be told how to act. And so inherently we push back against, people or things that are telling us what to do, and we continue to do what we're doing anyway, right? And this is part of the reason that those conversations and relationships might not really be going anywhere. So what do we do differently? Because this is where a lot of relationships, this is where a lot of marriages get into trouble, is that one or both individuals are kind of pointing at the other person saying, look, this isn't working for me, this needs to change. And like for all the reasons I just said, that conversation doesn't go anywhere. The real problem is oftentimes masked, right? And there's this saying, and I've checked it with a number of people, and especially with men, and it rings true, which is that people don't necessarily want out of their relationship. They don't necessarily want out of their marriage. They want out of the pain. They want out of what's not working for them. And unfortunately, when people can't identify the source of the pain, they just know that it's related to their partner, it's related to being in a relationship, it's related to being in a marriage, well, then they get out of the relationship, they get out of the marriage. And that's without really ever knowing kind of the nature of the issue. So what do we do differently with all of this? Well, what I recommend is that the real problem is not what the other person is doing. Yes, you're impacted by what they're doing or by what they're not doing, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is how all of that makes you feel, right? The real problem is the emotions that are coming up, the way that those emotions impact your life. The real problem is your needs and your desires that aren't being met, right? And all of that makes you feel really bad, and you don't want to feel really bad on a daily basis. And so, looked at through this lens, the real problem is really more within you about what you're feeling and experiencing. But so often, this isn't what gets communicated. And when I think about what helps people to move forward and to have new conversations, because you got to have new conversations to get new results. If you keep having the same types of conversations, you're going to get the same results. The single best tool that I've ever come across is called the Wheel of Universal Human Needs. And this is like, it's like a pie chart. There's 10 different wedges in it, if you will. And there's various needs that are identified, and needs like rest, needs for freedom, need for community, need for productivity, need for leisure, right? These are the types of needs that are listed on this. And just looking at this chart, it's just a one-page PDF, but you just look at this and you kind of bring to mind a particular relationship, or you bring to mind a particular situation. And you say, look, for me, which needs on this chart are not being met? And immediately it starts to come to mind. You just read through, there's a lot, there's probably 70 different words that are on this entire chart, but you're going to be drawn to certain wedges, and then you're going to be drawn to certain words that are in each one of those, and you're going to see, oh my God, my need for fairness, my need for respect, my need for rest, right? All those are what's missing in this particular situation. And this starts to empower you to have different conversations, because now instead of saying, look, when you don't come home late at night, it really bothers me, right? You start to say, like, look, I'm really needing connection. right? I'm really needing some closeness in my life. And when you're gone all the time, this need isn't getting met and it makes me feel a certain way. You start to now ground these conversations in the real problem, which is what it is that you're experiencing that you don't want to continue to experience. And rather than talking about things that are going to provoke defensiveness in the other person and cause them to kind of pull back and continue to do what they're doing, it actually invites them into your world and gives them an opportunity to show up for you differently, which again, this really starts to unfold in new ways. So I hope this was helpful. And if you're interested in getting a copy of this Wheel of Universal Human Needs, I've got one on my website. If you go to bestpossibledivorce.com/1, you'll find some more information about this chart and you'll be able to download a one-page PDF about that. And in closing, because I didn't say it earlier in this video, my name is James Traub. I'm a certified divorce coach. And what I do is I work with parents, especially those who are in the really early stages of separation and divorce, to avoid costly mistakes, to preserve your relationships with your children, and to achieve better outcomes. So I'll be talking to you again soon.